Hello there everybody and welcome back to Movie Squirm. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1989 slasher film Nightmare Beach, and this is co-directed by Umberto Lenzi and James Justice and stars Nicholas the Toth and Sarah Buxton. This tells the story of a biker gang leader named Diablo who is executed for murder. However, the murders start to creep back up again, and some even think that Diablo is back from the dead and carrying out his revenge. Now, just a heads up, I'm not going into any major spoilers about this movie, but there are going to be things that I mentioned that happen in the film along the way, so just a little bit of a heads up there. Now, this is a film that always grabbed my attention just by the cover on the Blu-ray, kind of like in the 90s when I went to the video store to rent a movie out, and I just go by the horror movie posters there, which one looked interesting. And for some reason, I just never really picked it up. I've never really looked into this movie or anything. And I finally took the plunge when I seen it again in my local Blu-ray store. So I went into this one not knowing whether it was a good movie, whether it was bad. And I didn't expect much, to be honest. But I just thought this was going to be a low-budget slasher. So what did I think of Nightmare Beach? Let's find out. But I really like some of the story elements we get thrown in here. There is this motorcycle gang going around, just causing a bit of havoc there, not being very nice to people, and giving the town a bad name. And they're having feuds back and forth with the police department. And the police department, it's kind of a silent war on the streets, really. They're trying to keep them at bay, really, because they don't want all holidaymakers, feeding for their lives or whatever. And I liked how this incorporated into the story with the whodunit aspect of the film, because we don't know if it is actually a motorcycle gang member going around there causing even more havoc because the killer is dressed as this motorcyclist, or is it going to be the police? One of them's going around dressed as this motorcycle killer to give the motorcycle gang even more of a bad name and get the community on their side. Is it Diablo actually back from the dead, the guy who got executed at the start of the movie? So I really liked, that played into the main slasher storyline that we have here and makes you question who it could actually be.
Diablo. I knew they couldn't kill you, baby.
I really liked how the two main leads of the films come together because they share a common enemy, because they've either had a friend or a family member who've been killed by this motorcycle killer going around, and they come together in the movie to look for clues and to try and unmask who this killer is and put a stop for it once and for all. So the movie does throw a lot of little subplots in there that were really interesting to me. This would have been very, very easy to just make a movie with hardly any story of a killer going around dressed as this motorcyclist, but no, it's a bit more clever than that. And there's all a bit of past history explained about the location as well, but I absolutely loved this location of Miami Beach in Florida because it just felt like I was watching a horror movie taking place in GTA Vice City, which is a big nostalgic video game for me, but that's exactly what it felt like. It had this cool 80s vibe with the sun-drenched streets of this holiday hotspot, really, and a cool-ass banging 80s soundtrack to boot. Everything here just screams 1989, but I really like how the characters in this movie are just having so much fun. They're all spring bakers. They haven't got a care in the world. They're at the start of their adulthood, really, and they just want to have lots of fun. But there's just such a contrast there because there is this dark, looming threat in the background of this killer, and it's almost like he's daring them to have too much fun. And speaking of the killer, I thought he looked pretty awesome in this movie. He's got this black leather jacket with this shiny red helmet and this big shiny red motorbike. And I'm talking Christine red. Movie Christine, that colour red. So it really does gleam through the screen. I mean, if Christine was a motorcycle, this would be it. There's some really creative and fantastic kills in here as well. It tries to mix it up a little bit, even though most of the kills are to do with the electricity for some reason. I don't know if this was like a rule he had or something, but sometimes he did break that rule. And one of the standout kills of this film was a flamethrower kill where this girl's face is just burnt to a crisp. And I was like, oh my God, the practical effects in this movie were amazing to look at as well, especially for the time. Man, practical effects over CGI every single day of the week now. There's so much fun for slasher fans here, but again, this is a whodunit movie, like I mentioned earlier, and I never guessed who the killer was in this movie. So I've always said, if you've got a whodunit slasher movie and you don't guess who the killer is, I think the movie has done a very good job of throwing you off, really. And you do kind of kick yourself a little bit because you're thinking, oh, that's why he's doing it. I suppose his motivation makes sense. And it also makes sense for him to be dressed as this motorcyclist as well. So it all comes together nicely with, it's wrapped up nicely here, the unveiling of the killer. And speaking of the movie wrapping up, man, this film absolutely flew by. It's only a 90-minute movie, which I welcome these days because you don't see many of them very often. But despite that, you're just having so much fun. So the movie is just very well paced. Now, I just want to get into a couple of the characters here because I got to be honest, some of the acting in this movie is a little bit below par. In fact, there's some bad performances in here, but John Saxon was definitely the standout of this film. He is playing the sheriff who is having feuds with the motorcycle gang, like I mentioned. He is the main sort of antagonizer, really, towards them. And he just done a great job here. He's always great, John Saxon, rest in peace, but here, he just stands out levels above. And I always liked that he didn't quite know what he was up to, what his motivations were. Was he actually this killer? You just don't know what his whole backstory is. He was quite a mysterious character, and he'd done a good job of putting that on screen where you were just scratching your head over him. You didn't know whether he was like a good or bad character, really. And I really wish Ronnie, played by Rolly Valverde, wasn't killed off so quickly in this movie. He's killed off about 30 minutes in there, and he leaves a bit of a hole. He is the most fun character in this film by a mile. Definitely not the best performance, but he's the most fun character. And he has just got this extreme confidence about him. There's one moment in the movie where this biker gang are just about to beat the shit out of him, like 10-1, and he just insults one of the mothers, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is cool as fuck. And there's other times where he just walks up to women in bars with just this extreme confidence, and I was like, man, that guy is awesome. But unfortunately, he wasn't actually the main lead of this film, and I get why he was killed off to help progress the story. But maybe it would have been a little bit better if he switched it up with Nicholas the Toth there.
Come on, biker punk. Just you and me. I'll kick your ass!
And speaking of him, I do have differing opinions on our two main leads. Gail here was a likeable enough character. I mean, there's anything special about her, but she's kind of cool. You kind of get behind her. You kind of want her to succeed in finding out who this killer is for his sister's sake. But Nicholas the Toth, who plays Skip, man, he was just the total opposite of the Ronnie character. Like, you never think these two guys would be best friends. You never think they'd hang out together because every time Ronnie just wanted to go and party and stuff, he would just go home and want to do boring shit. He'd give everyone one-word answers. He just didn't look like he wanted to be in this town. And to be honest, he really didn't look like he wanted to be in this movie. And Nicholas the Toth actually didn't act after this, so maybe that would explain a few things. I don't know if he fell out of love with it or he just wasn't interested in the first place and he just walked into this career. I don't know. But he was just a character that was like a cardboard cutout. He was just there. And that is very unfortunate for such a cool movie to have such a boring lead. Also, there's some like jerky off moments that you just get in these 80s slasher films, don't you? I mean, the cheese is there. There is a lot of cheese in this movie. Not as much as some 80s slashers, but I just mean things like the editing, for example. Like, two characters will be talking, and one of them will say his line of dialogue, and the other one will start half a second later and then say his line of dialogue. But it's kind of like he's waiting for the cue card to go, okay, now it's action. I just wish, that could have been improved a little bit, but overall, this is a small gripe. We see this a lot in 80s slasher movies, don't we? I'm able to excuse that. I'm just going to go ahead and rate this movie now. I'm going to give Nightmare Beach a 7.5 out of 10. nothing exceptional, but a really fun time. I'm glad I finally gave this movie a go. And if you're a slasher fan, you haven't seen this, I can see you having a really fun time with this one. Okay, at the end of these reviews, I always like to leave a little fun fact. Now, a fun fact for Nightmare Beach is that even though this takes place in Florida, this is actually an Italian movie. And there's a little cue there for the motorcycle gang who are called the Demons, and they have the title of the movie Demons, the logo of that film, otherwise known as Demon Eye in Italy, on the back of their leather jackets. Okay guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review. Please do not forget to give this video a like and subscribe to this channel if horror is your sort of thing. Lots more reviews and horror content on the way. What did you think of Nightmare Beach? Have you seen this movie? And are you the same as me? Or do you think it's kind of dull and not very good, not very cool? I mean, I was really surprised by this one. But let me know in the comments down below and I'll get back to you all, I promise. Thanks so much, everyone. You all take care and I'll see you all in the next video.